The walls of number 10 are trembling with irony. The man who promised calm order and steady hands now finds himself consumed by a ghost he cannot escape. Keir Starmer is supposed to be Britain's Prime Minister. Yet every day it looks less like he governs the country and more like he's governed by Nigel Farage. The obsession is unmistakable. The repetition of his rival's name, the defensive tone, the desperate comparisons, all of it tells the same story. Farage does not need a seat in Parliament or an official title. He already occupies the most powerful office in Britain, Starmer's mind. And from that throne inside Downing Street, he is wreaking havoc. The meltdown began as a press conference meant to showcase Starmer's authority, but instead it exposed his deepest weakness. Reporters did not let him glide by with polished lines or vague assurances. They attacked, they probed. And within minutes, the Prime Minister revealed just how badly Nigel Farage has gotten under his skin. Question after question forced him to bring up Farage's name, until it turned into an almost absurd chant. Every mention was supposed to diminish the man he called dangerous, reckless, and unfit. Yet the opposite happened. Each repetition gave Farage power, credibility, and legitimacy. The spectacle was astonishing, a Labour Prime Minister standing before the nation obsessed with an opponent who wasn't even in the room. The symbolism could not have been clearer. Farage is not just a political challenger anymore. He is the shadow haunting every move of this government. When Starmer talks about immigration, it is through the lens of Farage. When he speaks on economics, it is a rebuttal to Farage. When he pleads for public trust, it is because Farage has already sown doubt. The Prime Minister isn't shaping the national conversation, he's reacting to it. And at the centre of that conversation is Nigel Farage living rent-free in the halls of power. The press saw the weakness instantly. They turned his nervous repetition into the story. Journalists from The Guardian mocked his robotic delivery. Sky News cornered him on his broken promises, forcing him to defend himself rather than attack. GB News played the role of provocateur, treating Farage as if he were already the true leader of the opposition. Starmer, once billed as the adult in the room, now looked like a man unraveling before their eyes. He was defensive, cornered, and humiliated. And the cruelest twist? It wasn't even Farage delivering the blows, it was Starmer himself. Momentum matters in politics, and Starmer's momentum has collapsed with breathtaking speed. Leaders can survive scandals if they maintain the aura of control, but control has vanished. The illusion of calm authority has shattered, replaced by viral clips of a Prime Minister repeating his rival's name like a nervous tick. The meltdown was not just embarrassing, it was defining. A moment the public will remember as the day Starmer's mask slipped and Farage's dominance became undeniable. What makes this unraveling so devastating is the way it amplifies every doubt voters already had. Starmer claimed to be steady, trustworthy, and focused on ordinary people. Yet his obsession with Farage makes him look distracted, panicked, and weak. Instead of offering solutions to energy bills, food prices, and tax burdens, he is fixated on a man outside government. That fixation has turned Farage from a populist agitator into a central figure of British politics, elevated not by his own campaign, but by the very man trying to bury him. Inside Labour, whispers are turning into murmurs. MPs who once praised Starmer's composure are now asking if he's already damaged beyond repair. They see the headlines, the viral moments, the humiliation. They know a leader who looks rattled is a leader in danger. And with Nigel Farage commanding the conversation, those whispers of doubt may soon grow into open revolt. The truth is chilling. Starmer thought he was exposing Farage. Instead, he exposed himself. What Britain saw was not a confident Prime Minister dismantling a populist rival. It was a Prime Minister so consumed by Farage that he handed him the ultimate victory relevance. From that moment on, Farage no longer needed to fight for attention. He had already conquered the mind of the man in number 10. And that is why the phrase now echoes across Westminster: Nigel Farage lives rent-free in Downing Street. The man who never won a parliamentary seat now dictates the very debates of government. The man excluded from the Commons has become the phantom king of British politics. And Keir Starmer, the supposed leader of the nation, looks more like his hostage than his opponent. The danger for Starmer is not just that he looks weak in one press conference, it's that this weakness is now cementing itself as his defining image. Once a leader is framed by the media as defensive, panicked, and obsessed, it becomes almost impossible to reverse. Every future appearance will be judged against that meltdown. Every pause, every stumble, every nervous glance will be interpreted as proof that the man in number 10 is cracking under the weight of Nigel Farage's shadow. This is no longer just politics, it's psychology, and the battlefield is Starmer's own mind. Consider the symbolism of that viral pub moment. The Prime Minister, escorted out of a place where ordinary citizens gather, shouted down like an unwelcome guest. It was raw, it was unscripted, and it was devastating, because it told the nation something simple: this man does not belong among the people he claims to represent. No carefully crafted speech can erase that image. It will live on as a symbol of disconnection, of inauthenticity, of a leader rejected by his own base. And at the centre of it all, Farage. Not because he orchestrated the scene, but because Starmer's obsession has tied every humiliation back to him. The more Starmer falters, the stronger Farage appears. Inside Labour's ranks, the knives are sharpening. A party with hundreds of MPs is also a party with hundreds of ambitions. Self-preservation always trumps loyalty, and when backbenchers see a leader spiralling, they do not wait politely. They calculate, they whisper, they gather allies. And if the polls continue to show Reform UK surging while Labour bleeds, support those whispers will grow into open rebellion. For the first time, Labour MPs are asking not just how to defend their leader, but whether defending him is even worth the risk. Because in politics, weakness is contagious. It spreads through a party like wildfire. And once the belief sets in that a leader cannot win, the collapse accelerates. The irony is staggering. Starmer built his brand on being the safe choice, the adult who would restore order after years of chaos. But safety is not what voters see now. They see desperation. They see a man repeating Farage's name until it becomes absurd. They see a leader defined not by his own vision, but by his fear of a rival. And in an age where authenticity is prized above all, fear and obsession are fatal flaws. Farage doesn't need to out-campaign. Starmer is doing the work for him. By defining himself against Farage, he has elevated him into Britain's most powerful political force without a seat in Parliament. And the press has smelled blood. Once journalists decide you are vulnerable, they do not relent. They dig deeper, they sharpen their questions, they expose every crack. That is what happened in that brutal press room. They cornered him on broken promises. National insurance hikes benefit caps, economic U-turns. They demanded answers he could not give. And when he tried to shift the blame onto Farage, they flipped the argument back. How can a man who breaks his own pledges attack anyone else's credibility? It was a knockout blow, and it will echo through every headline and every news cycle that follows. The collapse is happening faster than anyone predicted. Just months into his premiership, Starmer is already described as sinking at a pace historically unprecedented. Those words matter. They are not just commentary, they are the narrative. And once the narrative turns against a leader, voters stop seeing stability and start seeing a sinking ship. And as history has proven, again and again, sinking ships rarely make it to shore. Meanwhile, ordinary voters are watching with growing cynicism. Pensioners fearing their winter bills. Parents squeezed by child benefit caps. Small businesses strangled by taxes. These are not abstract problems. They are daily realities. And instead of offering solutions, the Prime Minister is locked in a one-sided duel with a man outside government. Every time Starmer repeats Farage's name, he tells struggling voters exactly where his priorities lie. Not with them, not with their problems, but with a populist rival who lives in his head. The greatest danger for Labour is not just losing ground to Reform UK. It is the collapse of credibility itself. Once voters see a leader as inauthentic, no policy, no speech, no promise can rebuild that trust. The mask has slipped, the illusion of steady leadership lies in ruins. And in its place stands a man who looks less like a Prime Minister and more like a puppet of his own obsession. The question now is brutally simple: how long can this last? History teaches us that political downfalls rarely begin with a single scandal. They begin with a shift in perception, a change in how the leader is seen. For Starmer, that shift has already happened. The saviour has become the scapegoat. The steady hand has become the shaky voice. The Prime Minister has become the prisoner of Nigel Farage.